What's going on, guys? This is Dumber Orange 927 here. Back again for another video, and here today, guys, I am doing a response video on Angry Joe's wonderful new video he's made. So, yeah, disclaimers out of the way. This is the first video I've done in a while since my trip, so forgive me if I seem rusty. Also, just understand everything's my opinion, but I need to really just get this response since everyone else has been doing it as well, and I just figured why not just get an idea behind everything since my feelings on the game of Battlefield 5 have been relatively mixed as well. So, yeah, let's do this.
Well, EA, you done f***ed it up again with my favorite franchise this time, which you've done before with Battlefield Hardline, but now it's the mainline Battlefield series. New stories are coming out all over the place right now. Analysts report Battlefield 5's pre-order sales are weak. They are weak. Battlefield 5's so far lower, below Black Ops 4, Red Dead Redemption 2. This outlet here. Pre-orders are reportedly very weak. Well, I think one angry gamer gets it wrong here. They never said very weak. You're throwing that word in there, and that's not correct.
Okay. To respond, now, I will be fair in the fact that at the time of Angry Joe making this video, he wasn't aware of the percentages and all that, but it's like, he's playing the exaggerations, the idea that he's trying to downplay the situation, basically saying, oh, it's not very weak, like, they never said that. Well, it's like, it doesn't really take a rocket scientist to know that if they were saying that it's weak, then it's like, that must mean something. Like, we know it's at least, like, weak, very weak compared to, like, say, other Battlefields and such. And now with the statistics and all that, we know now that Battlefield 5 is 85% lower in pre-orders than Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And that's not just weak. That's, like, downright terrible. Like, that is just, no. It's just, no.
They said that it's just lower. So what is weak? Is weak 100 million less? Is it 500? How much dollars is it less? $100 million less? $50 million less? We don't really know, but we do know that the pre-order sales are lower in comparison to Call of Duty and to Red Dead Redemption's 2. Now, why is this happening? Well, if you listen to YouTube and certain channels on YouTube, I watched 4 videos in a row just now because, I care about the Battlefield 5 franchise, and it sucks to watch this video because they're celebrating. They are celebrating the destruction and the lower sales of the Battlefield 5 franchise due to those goddamn liberals and those social warriors putting women in Battlefield. The reason why, to them, the Battlefield 5 is having lower pre-orders is because there are women on the box, there are women featured prominently in the trailers, and there are women in multiplayer.
Okay. To start on the fact of basically people celebrating, it's EA. You are aware of that, Joe. Like, Joe, listen to me. This is EA we're talking about. And you realize that they have actively been trying to screw over the community. It's like, dude, you need to understand something. We're not celebrating the game's death because we hate Battlefield. We are celebrating it because, and it's something, well, EA's trying to screw us over. Again. And they've been taking this approach of being in this self-righteousness and basically calling anyone who disagrees with them uneducated and sexist. I don't think that equivalates to people just doing it because they hate liberals or SJWs. Like, and don't confuse them as the same things. Like, liberals have problems with this as well. And, it's just like SJWs, it's like we are mad of the whole situation with SJWs because they don't do anything for a game. They only damage the IP, the franchise as a whole and basically any artistic vision the game ever has.
And they're not going to spend a goddamn dime of their $60 on women being in World War II because that insults their great-grandfather who fought in World War II. No women in World War II, in my fictional World War II.
Okay. I think Joe needs to understand two things. One, it's not just the woman people are upset about. Like, that's the most noticeable issue. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it's just the elephant in the room. It's not the, like, only issue. People are mad because it's breaking all manners of authenticity that a World War II experience is technically supposed to have. And he's saying, oh, people are mad because it's, they put women in this fictional World War II. Well, World War II is not fiction, dude. Like, it's real life. And I'm not saying Battlefield 5, being a video game based on it, has to go 100% historically accurate. But, dude, when you get a World War II game, you expect a World War II experience. And I'm sorry to say, but with the way things were back then, women, and especially disabled women with prosthetic arms and weren't running around the front lines. There weren't people with Japanese swords everywhere, people in these punk Mad Max outfits. There weren't, Asians fighting for the Brits. I'm sorry. It's just, it's how it was. Like, I'm not saying there weren't exceptions, but they were in a clear minority. And it's like, well, like, I'm just saying, it's like the whole idea of them being disrespectful to a great-grandfather is kind of true in a way. It's like, I don't think these veterans have fought and died just so someone can manipulate what happened just to appease a certain, minority group, or to literally lie and write history in a different manner just to appeal to a certain demographic or a certain way of thinking. Like, that kind of sounds a lot like the enemy we were fighting in World War II. I'm just saying, dude. I'm just saying.
Ha 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 to EA. Victory for Not My Battlefield, hashtag MAGA, Red Hats. Victory against social justice warriors. But is it really that? Is those segment of people who don't want women in there, who want a extremely historically accurate World War II experience in Battlefield 5, is that really what translates into the most lost revenue?
Okay, before we go on, I am going to scroll back to the comment section because he tries to highlight these as a point when it's like, I don't know if he's really taking into accommodation what they're actually saying. So, first one. If you buy this game, you're giving ideas to EA for releasing more SJW titles in the future. Yeah, that kind of sounds like a fairly reasonable comment. It's kind of true. The idea of capitalism and companies is to give consumers what they want. I'm just saying, it's like, if it makes money, it makes sense. So why would we give money to something that we don't want? That just, it doesn't make sense. All right. Now he can explain to his daughter why he has to sell the house and car. Dude, that's clearly a joke. I'm waiting for the LGBT expansion. Again, a joke. EA will never learn their lesson. Liberal company too dumb to realize what the consumers really want. I don't know if EA as a whole is liberal, but I do know its leadership is. But I do admit the comment shouldn't have classified liberal to say. It should just be SJW or greedy or something like that. Like, I admit the liberal is probably a little far with classification, but, again, it's a valid complaint. They're not recognizing what the community wants, and even worse, they're going against it. They're purposely, going against their community.
Victory for, again, extremely historically accurate World War. They say that the evidence is this: EA basically shit on the community, which they do all the time, and
you're right in saying that they do crap on the community a lot, but not to this extent. And more importantly, they've never done it directly. Like, EA has definitely screwed over its community through its business practices and its, aggressive use of trying to make money and putting microtransactions and all that sort of thing. But it hasn't before, to this extent, gone directly against the community, like actively fighting them. So, to say the argument that they do that all the time, again, downplaying this situation, is kind of false. Like, when he says it, he's half right. They have crapped on the community before, but they've never publicly done it, and they've never directly do it in a way to try to make the community purposely feel like idiots.
They deserve sometimes to get some backlash. They say
they deserve it all the time. No company has, they have the right, obviously. We live in a free country, but it's no offense, dude. We shouldn't be supporting a company that doesn't even give a crap about its own consumers.
Said, here's the backlash on women. Accept it or don't buy the game. So they are laughing their asses off at these guys who said, if you don't like women in Battlefield 5, don't buy it. And now they are cheering the fact that there are lower pre-orders and that pre-orders are weak. And then they also draw a parallel to Chief Design Officer Patrick Sutherland leaving the company. They say, well, the pre-orders have been weak, so that must be why this guy got let go. They didn't want him there anymore. In fact, he was the Chief Design Officer over 12 years. So here we can both agree on something. We can make this crossover that I'm glad this guy is fucking gone, okay? Because he was terrible. This is the
guy. Okay. Just so I don't forget anything or anything like that, he is stating that essentially that, people are laughing about the accept it or don't buy it thing. Two things to this argument. One, why are you going to hold it against the people for doing what, quote-unquote, DICE has said for them to do, what EA has said for them to do? Accept it or don't buy the game. Well, we've made the choice. We've chosen the latter. It's because two things. First off, Joe is really downplaying this. Like I said, you're going to hear me say that a lot. He's downplaying a lot of this stuff where it's not the only thing they said. It's not like they just went, oh, well, sorry about that. If you have a problem with it, just don't buy the game. Either accept it or don't buy it. No. Patrick Sutherland called the community uneducated. Other groups were calling the community downright sexist, and pretty much, one from Alan Kurt, I believe that's what his name is, was stating that he was going to find himself on the right side of history for this decision. This is clearly politically motivated. This is not based on some, if you're unhappy with our choices, well, I'm sorry, it's just there's nothing we can do, it's just how we design the game. No, they are directly trying to create a direct opposition to their own community. And then to say the whole thing with Patrick Sutherland leaving, yes, I completely agree with you. I am very happy that he is gone. But the reasons of why he says he's gone is where I'm going to disagree, and I'll explain in a sec.
Guy that saw how much money was being made in Madden Ultimate Team and FIFA Ultimate Team, just over $800 million annually, yearly. And then he said, let's go to our other games. Let's go to Battlefield. Let's go to Star Wars Battlefront. Let's do Need for Speed. All of our games, and inject microtransactions into that shit too. No! And it blew up in his face when the Star Wars community said, fuck off. And the Star Wars community rallied and got Disney involved and really upset things. Now, this could be, him leaving could be blowback from that. And trust me, I've seen people on those 4 videos I watched, this guy's going broke. He's got to explain to his wife selling his house and car. That's actually not true. This guy...
Joe, I don't think you're understanding the fact that the people, the comments saying, oh, he's going to have to explain why he has to sell the house and car. It is clearly a joke. Dude, I don't think people are actually serious in the fact that, I think they know this guy makes a crap ton of money, or at least he did. All they're trying to say is that I don't think it's a coincidence, and neither does a lot of the community, that he got removed around the same time of the public leaks of how low the pre-orders actually were. I doubt it's a coincidence. And, he says the whole thing of, like I said, it's kind of a downplay on this game by blaming Battlefront 2. Don't get me wrong. I am aware of this guy, of what he did to Battlefront 2, and that alone should have been enough to remove him. But I'm saying this, I don't think EA is going to come back and end up firing him when this is over, over 9 months later. I'm sorry. If they were going to fire him for something like that, it would have been, in December of last year. It wouldn't be all the way in August unless there was another reason for something to occur. Which is this game. Battlefield 5. I'm not saying I know it for a fact, but I'm just saying, and I'll play to your advantage since I can't technically prove it. So I'll just say if Battlefield 5 was a contribution to his departure, that would result in the factors of 2 screw-ups in less than a year. It's something that Griffin Gaming already mentioned, and he gave it pretty well. I'm just saying, Griffin Gaming, gave a pretty good response. You should probably watch it. And, I'm just saying, it's you're kind of downplaying the situation of this game by going back to Battlefront 2.
I'd made millions of dollars while he was there. And it may be that he's not leaving the company because of what you think he is leaving the company. If you do a little bit more research here, you'll see that the publisher really wanted him to stay. They gave him a $20 million bonus to this guy. Why? Well, back in June. That is so recent. They said they paid him a $20 million bonus partly for the purpose of supporting a longer-term retention of this guy. And he said, no, peace out. This is I'm taking the money and I'm leaving.
Patrick Soderlund didn't leave in June. They gave him the $20 million bonus, and that was probably due to his contributions to EA, but, you're not factoring in, this was before all the news came in with the weak pre-orders. This is when EA was still fairly confident. Not competent. Oh my gosh. Confident. Gosh, my voice today. EA was still very confident about the game's success. Alright, they didn't figure that everything that was being said or done was going to be enough to turn the sales against them. And they were severely wrong. And honestly, in my view, that's probably something that only angered EA even further, that they gave this guy $20 million only for him basically within the same time frame, basically setting Battlefield 5 up for complete and utter disaster. And it's at that point, if he is released because of the Battlefield 5 situation, combined with the Battlefront 2, because I will say that probably factored in, well, it's probably at this point the company is seeing him more as a liability and an obstacle than an actual asset. At this point, you don't keep people that are financially hurting you. That's just not how business works.
Is he going to go make more money somewhere else? That's a possibility. Nobody knows what's next for him or why exactly he left. But conservatives on YouTube will tell you that the reason why he left is because there is lower pre-orders because of the women in Battlefield 5, and because they said accept it or don't buy it, and people actually went out and didn't buy it. But is that the real reason?
Oh my gosh, Joe. Dude, is it seriously coming to that you are now labeling people that are displeased with this game? You are downright labeling it where, the only people that are irritated with this game are conservatives, just people with the right-wing mentality, when it's dude, most people, reasonably speaking, don't like SJW influence. Even liberals don't like SJW influence because SJWs are not liberal, they are left wing extremists. The same way how white supremacists are right wing extremists, and yet you don't see conservatives supporting that. Like, I'm fairly a moderate, okay? Yes, I lean a little bit more to conservative beliefs. Congratulations, my fellow subscribers. You now know my political leanings, but it's like, seriously, that's not the factors of people. Like, people on both ends of the political spectrum are upset about this. And it's like, you realize you're not just labeling people. Are you gonna have proof of this? Are you going to do you have a stat sheet of all the comment sections of like, oh, every comment section that spoke negatively about this game? Are they conservative, liberal, moderate, whatever? Do you have a stat for that? No, I don't think so. So stop labeling people.
I mean, objectively, or is it closer to this? You're putting Battlefield 5 in between one of the biggest Call of Duties and the biggest video game release this year. From a little known developer, a little known game, from a small indie publisher called, Rockstar. I don't think many people buy their games. It's not like it's Grand Theft Auto 6, essentially. No, it couldn't be that. It couldn't be that, October is notoriously such a filled month that I call it Broketober, and I can't freaking possibly review every single freaking game in October, and then it's sandwiched in between two of the biggest releases, not to mention all the other games that come out around the same time. No.
Okay. I agree with Joe in the sense that probably the competition of other games, especially arriving on the same month, and the fact that Battlefield 5 is sandwiched between Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2, is a major factor. Okay? I'm not gonna lie. It's probably a major factor in the decline. However, there are two arguments I hold against this. The first one is Battlefield 5, not Battlefield 5, just Battlefield in general, has always been surrounded by competition. It's always occurred. And not to mention, he says, oh, it's a bad choice on Battlefield's end for launching in October, when it's like Battlefield has always launched in October. That's nothing new for the series. If anything, every other game has been switching things up for that. And, I'm not saying that them being sandwiched in is a bad thing, but I'm just saying, Battlefield 5 is not this poor little like indie type game that, can't compete with the massive titans. Battlefield 5 is meant to be a titan in and of itself. It's like, I don't think Battlefield fans are going to come in just because they see Black Ops 4 and Red Redemption 2, that in a normal circumstance they would have been like automatically like, oh, screw Battlefield, I'm going to get those two games. Under normal circumstances. No. And I think he's kind of underestimating the fact that gamers are more than capable of saving money and, getting more than one game. Which if Battlefield 5 lived up to its quality expectations from its fan base and, wasn't going through the crap it was, it'd probably be that and Red Dead Redemption 2 and maybe Fallout 76, and then, games like Call of Duty would be the ones falling behind and struggling to catch up.
It couldn't be that. It couldn't be that this Battlefield 5 is the most poorly marketed Battlefield I've ever seen in my history of following the Battlefield franchise. And you guys know how much I love Battlefield. It was awful. I mean, yeah, there was a 3-hour closed door, behind the door session for influencers, press, what do they call it, game changers, outlets. It was fucking amazing. 3 hours of detailed information. They showed GIFs and animation breakdowns, and I was like, please just release this to everybody. Instead, no, they did the shitty Trevor Noah presentation, which was fucking awful. It really didn't give you the details. It really didn't show off the game. It was more concerned about mimicking the Daily Show with Trevor Noah on there in like a news report program with awful transitions. In comparison, Call of Duty had a great show on stage, even though they're ripping out features, And you...
Okay, Joe, you were completely right in this situation. Yes, the Battlefield 5 marketing has been absolutely terrible this year. Probably the worst Battlefield marketing I have ever seen. Alright, I don't think anyone is going to deny that. And, yes, that is probably one of, if not the most major factor that contributes to this. But you're speaking about it as if the controversy surrounding the game and the marketing are two separate things when they're not. Like, yes, the marketing as far as the trailers and the presentation, all that play its part, but controversy surrounding a game is just as much of damaging to a game being marketed as actual trailers and presentations being low quality are. Like, basically, even if the trailers and stuff were good, if this controversy still surrounded the game and DICE still responded the way they did, people are still going to be pissed off for that. It's like, again, like the marketing plays a major part, definitely probably a lot more major than any of the other factors, but it's like, again, that and the controversy are not two separate things. They intertwine and affect one another.
You would think so. You've got your EA is essentially pulling another Titanfall 2. Only this time they're fucking up one of their mainline franchises, Battlefield 5. They're jamming it in the middle of the biggest Call of Duty, right? And one of the biggest releases of the year. And this is why, in my opinion, pre-order sales are lower.
But again, Joe, you're comparing it to Titanfall 2. Is it probably going to play out the same way as Titanfall 2? Yes. But dude, you're associating the release date as one of the pure reasons as why this game is failing. Like, yes, you mentioned the marketing, and, you mentioned this, and I'm pretty sure you mentioned one more thing later near the end of this video, but it's like, dude, how do I explain this the best way possible? The game is a titan in and of itself. It's like, this should be the biggest Battlefield. Should it not? You're saying it's competing against the biggest Call of Duty when it's like, dude, you realize Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is going through its own controversy and issues right now. And as for Red Dead Redemption 2, yes, it's the biggest game. It will probably be the biggest game of this generation, and, there's no doubt it's going to sell the most out of this year, be the best-selling game of the year, but it's like, just because that's the case doesn't mean Battlefield 5 is automatically gonna be this game that undermines in sales solely because it's in between these two. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the position of where it stands between these two other games doesn't play a factor. It most certainly does. But saying that even if Battlefield 5 was in a absolute perfect and idealized condition in the heart of the community, it would still fail is just, it's honestly dumb. I'm sorry to say that, especially considering it's like, well, it's like Battlefield has done pretty well in the past, and it's had plenty of competition to deal with around the Christmas time.
Okay, the people that play Call of Duty, man, they've really done... Activision has really done their research. I thought that this year maybe some Call of Duty people would come over to Battlefield 5 because they realized they're getting less for more. But no, all they had to do was double the amount of zombie modes and add Battle Royale, even though they probably fucked up development really hard and they're scrambling. They had to pull out single player. And this was the year that I thought Battlefield 5 would probably crush Call of Duty. But it's not happening. They know their audience. Call of Duty people don't come over to Battlefield 5.
What?
Player, and this was the year that I thought Battlefield 5 would probably crush Call of Duty, but it's not happening. They know their audience.
Activision knows their audience.
What? What the fuck?
Activision knows their audience. I'm sorry, give me a very small second. Give me a very small second.
Have helped in the escape.
Thank you. Okay. Joe, what on earth are you talking about? Joe, are you being for real with me right now? That Activision knows their audience. That they, like, you realize COD has been in the biggest decline because they don't know their audience. Because they've been screwing up the community time and time again. And it's like you're saying that they know their audience. Like, I guess you must be right if the all powerful Battlefield 5 is losing out to Call of Duty Black Ops 4, except there are plenty of other reasons, some of which you mentioned, and then you're still avoiding the elephant in the room. And it's like, Joe, yes, I completely agree that if Battlefield 5 was in the most idealized form that the community wanted, then yes, it should definitely outbeat Call of Duty. And honestly, just by calculated prediction, granted I may be biased, but it probably would have. But you're looking at it from how things are right now, and due to that, it's like, well, dude, if someone's going to have the choice between Call of Duty and Battlefield, you have to understand this, that Call of Duty players have, and this applies to every franchise, to an extent they have a loyalty to a franchise. And when they're unhappy about that, they'll go to another game and all that in its place, but only if that other game is more appealing. And why would a COD member, or just a casual gamer in general for that matter, go to join a community that the developers and publishers have clearly stated they don't give a crap about? It's like, where's the logic in that? Like, everyone knows Activision doesn't care, but it's like, at least Activision doesn't go out and say it. It's like, you're not... Like, yes, I agree, and, I'll be honest, I'll play devil's advocate with you, Joe. Yes, I agree that from a technical standpoint, from an actual objective standpoint, Battlefield 5, in its state right now, is a superior game to Black Ops 4, just as a game. But it's like, that's not the only factor that comes into whether or not someone should buy it. The other factors go, oh, will my friends be playing it? Oh, how well marketed is it? Oh, how is the community? How is the way the post-launch content? How are the ways that the developers are treating its consumers? Which is probably the number one factor. And it's like, well, if the developers are treating the consumers like crap, well then, why would you want to join that community?
Call of Duty people don't come over to Battlefield 5. And with all these games coming out, these 3 plus those other major releases, plus I'm not even counting indie releases, people can't buy that many games per month. You're thinking the average student, whether they're in high school or college, has maybe $60. Maybe 2 games in a month, maybe if you're working really hard and you're doing other things. So what's that going to be? $60? That's going to be Red Dead Redemption. At least if I only bought 1 game, it's going to be Red Dead Redemption 2. All right.
Okay. Joe, I'm sorry, but at this point, dude, you need to just admit defeat. You are literally trying to blame indie games for Battlefield 5's failure. Joe, if someone told you about if someone tried to use that undercut on, say, Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 4 or something, people would laugh. It's like, and I'm still laughing here. Joe, indie games have nothing to do with this. Okay, yes, I understand people are coming out and saying in the comments and stuff, oh, I can't wait to play World War III over that Battlefield 5 trash or whatever, but it's like, that is a choice. That's a conscious decision. I don't think people, as a casual gamer who barely knows anything about either game, I think they're going to trust a AAA far more than an indie game that doesn't have a reputation. When Battlefield 5 clearly does have a reputation, and not Battlefield 5, but the whole Battlefield franchise, it has a reputation. It's known for a specific thing, and it's like, you're saying that reputation is being undercut essentially by indie games. And then, also it's like I think you're really underestimating the capabilities of people who buy the games. Like, there is a thing called saving money. Like, I hope you know that, Joe. Like, there is a thing called saving money, and that's, it's a very simple concept. It's where people save their money, and, when they save for what they want, and if what they want is expensive, then they don't spend it on things that they don't want as much. It's like, I'm pretty sure anyone who truly was dedicated to getting Battlefield 5, plus with Call of Duty and Red Dead Redemption, most case scenarios, like I'm not saying there aren't exceptions, but most people are probably able to save their money and get at least two of the three, if not all three. I know as heck I would be able to. I know a lot of my friends would. So, like, that argument kind of falls flat when you actually look into it. Like, it makes sense on the surface, but when you really think about it, it kind of falls flat.
Right? So, and I'm thinking that combined. So you've got those reasons. Is it because of, the social justice warrior agenda? They're trying to put women in our games, and they're trying to make us feel for females and have better representation in games? How dare they? This should be historically accurate, no women. Is that really the reason? No, I'm thinking, that maybe people will. There are people out there that's like, I'm not going to give you $60 of my money until you take those women out. Until you do it more historically accurate in your fictional stories. In the trailers, there's been women, and one of the war stories is going to feature a fictional story of a female resistance fighter. I will not pay you $60 till all that's out. In Battlefield 6, I better see no women. Then I'll give you my money. Do I think there are people like that? Yes, unfortunately, I do.
Okay, the people that go as far as this say are boycotting every single video game over women being in there, yes. Are there people like that? Yeah. And is it sad? Yes. But Joe, you're still missing the point. And I feel like at this point you're just trying to avoid it. Which is, again, people aren't mad solely of the fact of the woman being in the game. They're mad at the timing, they're mad at the way they're being presented, and they're being mad about the factors that, women are being shoved in to push a political agenda that clearly the gamers have no interest in partaking in. And not even just no interest, but no desire. And it's like, Joe, if that was the case, if people were just mad at video games for solely women being in the game, we wouldn't have excellent games like Tomb Raider or Metroid. We wouldn't, no one would have bought Battlefield 1 because, well, Battlefield 1 had a similar case. The guy on the front cover was, a black guy. And, there could have been an outrage about that, but there wasn't because, well, they put it in a way that made sense. He was part of the Hellfighters. And then, in the game, it was settled. It's like the Scout class utilized black individuals. All right, and a lot of it was associated to each country. And then, in the case of the DLC in the name of Caesar, they added female snipers for the Russians. And it's like, it worked. Because it wasn't completely unbelievable. Like, were they probably exaggerating a little bit on the level? But, yes, of course they were. But it's like, it wasn't in a way that was unconvincing. I think that's the main line that needs to be drawn. People aren't saying that the game has to be 120% historically accurate. They're saying that it needs to be authentic and, in a way, just, represent the time period in the era that it's based in. A good analogy I can make with this is compare it to a World War II movie. A World War II movie isn't historically accurate most of the times. Most of the times it does break a lot of stuff either due to a lack of research, which I actually do fault the movies for, or the second one, which I don't fault the movies for because it's just how it is they do it for the sake of the plot or drama or characters. And it's like, you know, that's a, it's just how it is. But it's like, just because it's not completely historically accurate to say, doesn't mean the good World War II movies don't take an effort on making it historically authentic. Like the feeling that you're actually in a World War II movie, to say. Like that you're actually watching a World War II movie. In the case of this video game, feeling like you're actually playing World War II. If you want the perfect example of that, Saving Private Ryan. A complete original story, never happened, but, it portrayed everything so well that it was believable.
But I don't give a shit. We've had World War II before, so when they come back to World War II, I was hoping for an alternate take, and they did one.
Joe, that's well and good. I'm okay. Fun. Okay. I'm glad you don't care. I'm glad you wanted an alternate take, but dude, no offense. I think you're kind of in the minority on that one. It's like, all right, like, people are upset because you realize, like, even if that's what you personally enjoyed, and, all the power to you, but it's like, people aren't satisfied with this. We wanted a fully authentic World War II experience. Like, it's just, that's what people wanted. That's what people asked for. And it's like, well, DICE is just failing to deliver on any front.
But I think the reason is this one looks more like Call of Duty. This Battlefield looks more like Call of Duty than ever before, with these loud, crazy-ass trailers that make it look like Call of Duty set pieces. And the sort of cybernetic arms or robotic arms or whatever. They're doing this crazy customization thing. If you're going to do alternate World War history like that, you could have gone real alternate World War II. And that would have been crazy, like a Nazi invasion of the United States, some, maybe other countries getting involved, or the fight being a lot bigger in Africa or Australia. Who knows? Or in the Pacific. It could have been crazy, but no, you're going this direction. So I think there's lost sales over the whole politicized thing, right versus left?
Before I continue, okay, two things. One, his whole thing of saying, oh, it's more like Call of Duty with its marketing and how things are running and all that. Well, if that's the case, then why aren't you complaining about that? Like, I thought you literally hated pretty much everything that downgraded to Call of Duty's level. So why aren't you looking at that through a critical lens? Just saying, like, Joe, you've went so many years describing Call of Duty as a huge mediocre franchise, which it is, but it's like you're and you've scrutinized other games for trying to rip it off, but it's like all of a sudden, just because it's Battlefield, it gets a free pass on that. And then his second thing about the alternate history, that they could have actually gone all out. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with you on that. Like, yes, if they were going to do this alternate type history stuff of doing whatever they want, include the woman and all that, then yeah, they probably should have went all out. Because that's the thing. I think fans as a whole, like, we truly wanted an historically authentic. Like, I think that's what people need to change the wording of not historically accurate versus not historically authentic. Like, that's what people probably need to start saying. It's not historically authentic. And even though we wanted an authentic game, that was our first choice. That was the game we wanted. But it's like, I think most of the fans could have accepted a full-on alternate history World War II where all this crazy stuff was happening. Like, yeah, I completely agree with that. That could have occurred. And if it did, then, it would have been cool. Like, maybe the idea of the Soviet Union joining the Axis powers. Maybe the whole thing of, yeah, your war escalating in the Pacific or Africa or an invasion of the United States. Like, yes, these sort of things would have been cool. And at that point, if it's an alternate history thing, then yeah, they could have pretty much done anything with it. But it's like, no. Instead, they did this middle ground type thing that just, in this case, Like, I tell people compromise where you can, but it's like, this is just where it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you're not going to get either true end of the spectrum. You're not going to get the interesting scenarios that an alternate history gets, but you're not going to get the immersion and the authenticity, the feeling you're actually in World War II that, a historically authentic World War II game would do. You're not going to get either one. So you're left in this weird middle ground where you're just like, I don't know what this is. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel with playing this game. And I think that's like one of the most major problems right now.
And right, being happy that the Swedish developers over there at DICE are eating their words. Yeah, I think a small bit of it, but I think it has to do more of the poorly timed release date. There are other just big boys fighting there for attention. I think that the really lack of marketing, good marketing for Battlefield 5 has really hurt it. And I think the general ill will towards EA, people are so sick of EA shit right now, especially coming off of Star Wars Battlefront 2. This is their major shooter coming off of that controversy. I think that has more to do with people, they're people are trying to lead you astray and drama whore and say this is why you should feel good. It's more, fuck EA, and those people are like, fuck EA. It's not fuck EA because women and because social justice warriors. Fuck EA because they tried to fuck me over.
Joe, you're missing the point. Yes, are there people probably refusing to buy EA games because of what happened with Battlefront 2, because of the fact that they tried to screw us over back then? Yes, there probably is a very, very small minority of those people. But it's like, I think you're failing to understand, like, the line you just said, that EA's trying to that we're screwing EA over because they tried to screw us over. Well, this is recent. You're acting like this is a distant thing, like, oh, just because it's the first game coming out, Battlefront 2, like, yes, that probably damaged it a little bit, but not enough. It's like, dude, video games are one of those things where when it has a misstep, when it has a bad thing that occurs, people just want it, with its next game, and I think that's the main thing Call of Duty has taught us, is that they just move on. They just move on to the next game. They're not overly spiteful. And it's like, well, EA tried to screw us over, not only with Battlefront 2, but now with this, because, you're fine because, you agree with everything and you think it's all okay. And, if that's how you truly think, then all the power to you. I'm not going to bash you over that. I'm not going to hate on you because you think it's okay. But where I do draw the line is when you start making false accusations on the people that disagree, and try to downplay the actual argument that's being presented and the situation. It's like, Joe, you're not understanding. You're just not understanding. I don't think it's a failure to comprehend. It's just you don't want to acknowledge this.
That's what I think it is. But maybe I'm wrong.
Joe, I'm sorry, but you are wrong.
So yeah, a few of you may celebrate this bad news for Battlefield, but I'm certainly not celebrating. I don't like pre-ordering anyway, unless it's like I'm damn sure it's gonna be the damn good game. And I was really close with Battlefield 5. But and here's another reason. I don't think that Battlefield 5 has had an open beta yet. I could be wrong. I know I played it because I got a key from my business management group. I think those latest ones have been closed alphas, and I think a lot of pre-orders come in when people actually get their hands on it and they play the new modes and they play the new feel of it. And, oh, okay, well, yeah, let me put down a pre-order. So,
okay, Joe, 3 things. First off, if you are having such an issue with, by the way, I do apologize about the ad. I really didn't see that coming. But, okay. Joe, 3 things. First of all, if you usually don't pre-order games anyways, then why are you, irritated with the situation of people not pre-ordering the game? Like, that doesn't make sense. You're scrutinizing people. I was saying, oh, they're just, conservatives or whatever, and that's why they're not pre-ordering. Like, it's such a bad thing when you yourself aren't pre-ordering the game. And it's like you say, I only pre-order when I'm dang certain it's gonna be a great game, and I almost did it with Battlefield 5. Well, it's like, dude, if you're this committed, then why haven't you? It's like, surely, if you're like, if you did not pre-order the game, despite how much you're defending it, despite how much you are passionately defending this and trying to crush any other result of argument, then I'm questioning why you didn't pre-order. Like I'm just saying, dude, at least through the way I look at it, I think it might just be because deep down you do have a doubt about this game, of its success, of its capability, because, well, that capability is going to be completely undermined. Alright, the developers have completely undermined it. And your third point about people celebrating about this and that you're upset about everything, it's like, dude, people are celebrating the defeat of EA. They're celebrating the fact that EA is being punished once again for attempting to screw us. And it's like, dude, just through my honest view, okay, I'm not celebrating. Okay, am I happy that EA is suffering through this? Yes. Am I happy that EA is paying the price, paying the piper for trying to screw us over? Yes. But Joe, you're portraying it with people celebrating like we wanted this game to suck. We didn't. Alright? Every one of us, as Battlefield fans, at the very beginning, before the very reveal trailer came out, we desperately wanted this game to be good. Okay? We wanted to like the game. Alright, we wanted something good to come to after Battlefront 2, since that screwed us over, and for a lot of people, Battlefield 1 just wasn't the game for them. I had a huge deal of fun with Battlefield 1, but that's just me. But it's like, regardless of the reason, people started out fairly excited and optimistic and at the very least hopeful for the game. But it's like, DICE and EA, even despite the actions of just putting stuff in the game that we don't want, despite that, and despite, basically them just going really aggressive with the SJW crap, the primary reason people are mad about this, at least through my view, is they're not willing to communicate with their community. Because all they've done as a form of communication is call us uneducated, call us sexist, and, we need to learn stuff from history, and, it's a plausible scenario, and I'll find myself on the right side of history while you guys aren't on the right side of history, and, if you have this much of a problem, then just don't buy the game. Like, you're realizing this is childish. This is middle school talk. When it's like, instead they should be communicating with the fans, going like, okay, give us your exact details on what your problem is. And, maybe they can say, like, hey, I'm sorry, but we spent too much resources and we're too late in development to change everything. But, hey, maybe we can create this mode for you guys that takes out the features, like all the customization. Hey, maybe we could reduce down a little bit, make it where the less authentic stuff is a higher rank. Like, you have to be a really higher rank before unlocking it. Hey, maybe for the case of women being in the game, maybe we'll include them at the very least just for the allied powers, just to differentiate things a little. But no, instead they don't take any of our words into consideration. They don't even attempt to compromise. Instead, they insult us and throw us in the dirt for daring to disagree with their political ideals, with their superior ideology. And Joe, at this point, that's kind of what you're falling into as well. Alright? If you truly think Battlefield 5 is going to be a good game, then go ahead and get it. Who am I to stop you from that? But before you spend that $60 on the game, think to yourself. Is this truly the Battlefield game that the fans deserve to get? And if your answer is no, then at that point, you'll know what to do. Well, that's about it. I'm not really going to bother finishing the last few minutes. Well, actually, I'll do it. Why not?
I hate to see this happen because I thought this year the Battlefield 5 franchise would do really well. Um, I don't think it has to do with the fact that this non-controversy of women being included.
Okay, thank goodness I decided to continue. Joe, it is a controversy. I'm sorry, dude, but it is.
About. Let me know, guys. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're celebrating the lower sales on Battlefield, I mean, I can't stop you. It is EA, so it's like you want to celebrate that, but you don't. But me as a Battlefield fan, it's like, oh damn it, you guys fucked this up, and so again, I'm mad at EA again. I just wish whoever replaces this Peter.
I don't get it. Are you mad at EA or are you not mad at EA? Dude, you're saying you're mad at EA for screwing things up, yet you're defending every decision they're making. Dude, what side are you picking? Dude, now I'm really beginning to think you're actually doubtful with the game. Joe, dude, you're being inconsistent right now. You're not even being consistent with your arguments.
This Patrick, I'm sorry, not Peter, Patrick Sutherland guy. I hope he's more, a guy for us, a gamer. Not gonna happen. As I said that, not gonna happen. But maybe there's a tiny hope that they'll learn from all this. I don't know. We'll see. Leave me your comment, and thanks so much. We'll see you on the next Angry Joe Show. Bye, guys.
Okay. Basically, that just sums everything up. I'm not going to go over detailed again because I just did earlier. Joe, people are upset about this, alright? But we're upset because EA screwed us over, not because the game is failing as a result. Alright? This is a byproduct. It's the symptom of EA and DICE screwing us over. Okay, I feel bad for the developers that actually put pure intention into the game of just wanting to make a fun game. And it sucks that all their work essentially in the minds of myself and so many other communities will be for nothing. But that's just how things are. And Joe, I'm actually being serious with my final word of advice. You really, really need to get consistent with what you're actually thinking. You're contradicting yourself, and you're not even being consistent. Okay? So, please, if you're, like I said, if you're truly excited for the game, then all the power to you. I'm glad that it's the game that you wanted. But, not everyone, most people don't agree with that opinion. Alright? Like, most of the community doesn't like that opinion. And, Joe, again, taking away everything else. If you truly support the game, which that's something you need to figure out, because, like I said, you're being inconsistent. But if you truly like and support the game, all the power to you. But at least try to understand what the opposition is saying and stop downplaying both the situation with how the audience is reacting and especially the points they're trying to make. I'm being serious. Just stop. Okay? I like you, Joe. I've subscribed to you and all that for a very long time. See, I've subscribed to you for a long while. And I've always came upon supporting you. I've always enjoyed your content. I've always tended to agree with a lot of your opinions because, you explain it well. And I always thought that you actually called things out when they're there. Like, you're the critic and the review to actually call companies and games out on their bullcrap when it's seen. And and it's like for some reason you're just completely dismissing the situation with Battlefield 5 as if it's like this complete innocent game. And like Joe, I'm just saying, there's a difference between a love for the franchise versus a blind like being blindly fanatic for it. And I think that's kind of what's happening. You're being blindly fanatical for Battlefield 5, or just Battlefield in general, that's causing you to become fanatical for Battlefield 5. And I don't think you're taking the thoughts and considerations of people and actually really thinking about it. You're kind of doing the mistake that I did back with Halo 5 Guardians. Because I was a longtime Halo fan, and that's how I thought. I tried to dismiss all other and opposition opinion and tried to downplay them, and the game turned out the way it did, and your review kind of summed up the majority of the problems. So just as you kind of helped me with that situation, I'm gonna try to help and warn you now. Just try to understand what people are trying to say. You don't have to agree with them, but at least understand it and just be factually honest. And not try to call people category groups of, oh, only conservatives or Trump supporters hate this game, because I did see your video on your whole situation with Trump, calling people that support him uneducated, and it's like, dude, at this point you're kind of becoming an SJW like being yourself. And I'm just warning you now before it goes too far. So that's it. I did not mean for this to ever hurt your feelings or anyone's feelings for that. I don't want to offend people. It's the honest truth that I have to get across. But I digress. Shout out to Griffin Gaming and Rags. Those two made video responses to this already, and they kind of served as a huge inspiration for my video. So shout out to them. I'll probably put their links in the description. But yeah, I'll probably make another Battlefield 5 video soon. I'll have to give myself a little bit of rest. My voice is really tired, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Until then, this is Dumber Orange, and I will see you next time. Peace.